Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Good evening, Beer Geeks. It's Friday, it's 5pm, and it's Christmas-ish.
Almost. Kind of. It's Christmas at the Craft Beer Channel.
It is. It's not November anymore, which tripped us up quite a few times in this week's episode.
I like that. Sounds like slogans. It's not November anymore.
It's like you're not in Kansas anymore. It's like it's not November anymore.
That's it. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Shit's getting real. Quad and Impy Stout season.
It's December. It's the season to be jolly. The pubs are open again, Johnny, in London, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, for about half the country, the pubs are open again. I don't know what it's like at other parts of the world, though, of course, so we could just be rubbing it in people's faces here, Bradders.
No, that's true. I was in the pub last night, and I wouldn't want to rub it in anyone's face either.
But
it was glorious, though, and I did drink a very well-kept pint of Siren Soundwave, which was I think that was the last. It was the same pub as the Royal Albert in Deptford/New Cross Borders, and I think it was the last pint I drank before we went into lockdown in the same pub.
We can reference that by going back a couple of podcasts and having the same story.
I'm a creature of habit, and it was tasting great. I don't think it was the same keg still. Hopefully. It was tasting banging still. So I had a great cheese board, which was my...
I saw the photo, it did look good.
My substantial meal, which I enjoyed greatly. Some very, very aged cheddar. And what was it? Like a kind of a Cornish Brie, which was quite cheeky. Anyway, I've totally derailed us. We haven't even got off the gates yet.
Yeah, I mean, I've got in my show notes for stuff to talk about, Christmas live show. So we've already messed that up. I tried so hard to make it about Christmas, but now we're talking about Cornish Brie.
There you go.
So, yeah, let's get back into the show. The main thing we want to promote in this week's episode is the fact that next Saturday, the 12th of December, we are having our live Christmas extravaganza, which is something we've done every year for the past year. So it's a young tradition. But we do always have an annual Christmas non-live show, but we've now got the live version. For this one, we're doing lots of special stuff. Not only do we have a delicious case of amazing beer available via Beer Merchants, which is also shipping, I believe, to most of the EU again. And within that, we've got Omnipollo, we've got Don Zoco, we've got St. Bernarda's Christmas Ale, we've got, I think it's called Holiday Haze from Lervig, like a classic juicy American pale, loads of like very varied, but all with a festive kind of tilt to it. So you can buy that box. There's a link in the show notes. But more importantly, we've got amazing guests.
Go on.
We're going to have Ned the Sneb Palmer, cheese extraordinaire.
Oh, we can talk cheese. I love Ned. What a lovely chap.
He is truly amazing and author of one of my favourite books of the year, which is The Cheesemonger's Guide to the British Isles, or History of the British Isles, rather. So he's going to be joining us for half an hour of cheese chat, but knowing Ned, that will be an hour's worth of cheese chat.
Great stuff.
We're also getting some YouTube beer reviewer luminaries on to do a beer review with us live.
Do tell who are we experiencing?
Currently confirmed.
Yes.
We have Simon of Real Ale Guide.
Oh, great stuff.
And we have Ollie of Hopzine. Sorry, Ollie of Pint Sized, and I'm trying to convince Rob of Hopzine to come along. He hasn't replied to my email, so that convincing is not going down too well so far.
So it could be a real barnstormer of a live show with all sorts of like a Christmas variety show where I'm imagining Bing Crosby, who's sitting playing the piano, and then the doorbell rings and like it's David Bowie walks in, except
Back
it
from
being
the dead.
David Bowie. Yeah. That instead of David Bowie, it's Hopzine Rock.
Simon from Real Ale Guide.
or Simon from Real Ale Guide. And then they sing Little Drummer Boy duet. Was it Little Drummer Boy? The amazing duet that Bing and...
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it's fucking cool. Amazing. So I'm pitching it as that, Johnny.
Okay.
Except it's loads of middle-aged, not rock stars, but beer influencers.
I mean, I could crack out the guitar if you want to have a little sing-song.
I think you should, mate. I think you should. I mean, I've got a terrible singing voice, but I would love for us to try and sing Little Drummer Boy. And I don't know who's going to be David Bowie, but I'm going to watch the clip. Actually, can we put?
We've agreed it's Simon from Real Ale Guide.
Oh yeah, okay.
He's the obvious choice.
He's got to do a David Bowie accent then when he walks in.
Oh God, I'm not
oh,
sure.
It's a very special time. I can't do a David Bowie, but he's got.
I'm a bit worried about this. Thinking about it, like you derail our podcasts and our videos enough. Once we bring Simon in, it's going to be like the unstoppable force. Was it the unstoppable force in the immovable object? I'm just not going to be able to get a word in.
No words for Johnny. That's it.
I'll just strum the guitar in the background.
Yes.
Right, so I don't know whether we've sold that to you or just convinced you to find something else to do on the 12th, but yeah.
Basically, it's the most kick-ass sort of Christmas box set of beers. We got some Belgian big hitters. We've got some like cool-ass beers from all around the world as well. And it's as Christmassy as you're going to get. And we don't need all the pubs to be open everywhere because that Saturday we're all going to be virtually in the pub together, having a knees up.
Absolutely, yeah. So please do join us. It should be a lot of fun. Shall we move on to this week's video?
I suppose we'd better, right? Why not?
We should. So this week's video was one that I've been really, really excited to release. That's been a big old edit. There's lots of elements to it. And also one that took a lot of planning and daring. So if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil too much. But it opens with Brad and me looking back at the last 4 years of Christmas videos to work out what the ultimate Christmas beer would be. And finishes with us brewing a mince pie-inspired Belgian dubbel.
Pretty epic. It's an epic thing, right? We've got some Wayne's World flashbacks going on. You get to see what we looked like up to half a decade ago, essentially.
Yeah.
Back in the vaults. It's got everything in there, man. It's got everything. It's got, like you say, mince pies in abundance, inspiration.
Yeah, Brad, you ate nearly all of them.
I did, and someone made a very good point that some of the mince pies looks a bit like Eccles cakes.
They did.
And they fucking did. And those ones are the best ones. So I monstered, I think, 3 out of 4 of them. 2 or 3 out of 4 of them. Yeah, they were great.
That sounds about right. So the stakes are really high in this video as well because I've never brewed a Belgian beer. I've never brewed a beer that big either. So we think it's going to end up at around 7.5. But I've got my comment for this week might throw that bit of calculation into doubt. So it's a big old Belgian beer, neither of which I've ever done. And it's in bottle right now. I'm not going to spoil anything, but we have tried it. And it's going to make for an exciting second episode as we analyse it. Currently, it's nowhere near carved enough, so we're actually not going to properly taste it until 2 days before the video goes out. So if it's absolutely awful, there's not a lot we can do. Christmas is cancelled, basically, at that point.
Christmas is cancelled, but you know the show will go on. And we will drink it regardless, Johnny, because we're going to have a good time.
I know
mate.
you will. I'll dig out my very delicious pumpkin ale instead.
The onus is on us, man. We've got to save Christmas. That's what we promised in the video.
Hey, right. Did you get a comment, Brad? A favourite comment from the comment section?
I did. I don't know if it was a favourite comment, but Matt Sommer said, 2016 Brad looks so young and fresh, like the ghost of Christmas present. And then he's done hysterical laughing face. I mean, to be honest, I think in 2016, I looked kind of terrible. I think I look better now. Like I was packing a few more pounds, some more beer baggage was involved. I look real sweaty.
I think you're aging like a fine barley wine, Brad. I agree.
Nate, me too. I've gone well grey, which is something that I'd noticed in those flashbacks. Even last year, I was like, oh, my hair looks quite brown. And then this year, just ghostly white, like Christmas. I don't know, what's the ghost called in Ghost of Christmas Past or whatever. That's what I look like now. But yeah, so I was sort of not offended, but I thought I feel like maybe I look a bit fresher now than I did back then.
I think you did. I think both of us. I mean, we'd also been filming for quite a long time before we did the 2016 episode, and I am looking ruddy as hell.
yeah, and it was we were in the basement in the place
the Mall Tavern.
Yeah, the Mall Tavern, which was I found it a bit. I mean, that is a great venue, by the way. That's a beautiful pub. But down there, I just found it a bit steamy, and I could have been all the sort of clothes we were wearing, the fact we'd been boozing and filming all day. But yeah, we definitely look a bit kind of worse for wearing that video. So,
but I think that's part of Christmas. Like that is almost exactly what I look like by the end of Christmas Day, sort of bloated, ruddy, and drunk. So exactly. I guess that was very festive of us to do that.
Indeed, mate. And have you got any great questions from this week's vid?
Yeah, well, so obviously since we started doing homebrew content on the channel, we've had lots of homebrewers join us, and I think people have realised that our technical knowledge is pretty good when it comes to brewing. So we got a comment here from BrewBQ. He said, "This is a very exciting recipe, guys. I'll be doing something like this in the future. I made a 100% raisin wine a few years back, and I drink a bottle every few months as a treat. I used 4.5 kilograms of raisins and made 13.5 litres of wine. The OG, which is the original gravity, so the amount of sugar in solution before you start fermenting it, was 1.088. So that is big. Wow. That is, like Imperial Stout almost, original gravities. Well, no, not almost, it is. And the final gravity was 0.096. So that is incredibly dry. Drier than a Saison, drier than a Brut IPA. So that would have been a big old wine. And he was saying, that's how much sugar you get, and that's how fermentable it is. Which then throws into doubt my calculations with our grain bill, our original gravity, and the amount of raisins I added. I thought we'd get to 7.5. Mm. From what BrewBQ is saying, probably it's higher than that. And also in my calculation, I know I haven't included the about 100 ml of rum because I didn't really know how to calculate that. So we could be talking, 8, maybe even 9% Belgian double that I've created here.
Bloody Nora.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think the best way to test it is to give you a large format bottle when we taste it and see what happens to you by the end.
I think so. I think that's only fair, right?
Yeah, I'll choose a percentage by the look on your face.
Yeah, well, we'll have some for the live show, won't we? To try and drink along next Saturday, right?
Absolutely.
That'll be fun. We'll maybe tuck into that once we've devoured the rest of the box.
Oh God!
If we've done that, we're in trouble. But I'm just thinking about raisins. Raisins are they're grapes, aren't they? That have been sort of dehydrated, essentially.
Sun dried.
So all of the water content has gone, and it's just left it as an incredibly intense little nugget of sugary power and kind of flavour. So. Where was I going with this? I've totally lost my train of thought.
I never know, Brad. I never have any idea where you're going. I just hang tight and wait. Like when you get on a bus and you don't know if you're on the right bus and you're just like, well, I'll just get off at the next stop then.
Can you make wines with raisins? That wasn't going to be my question. I was going to go into basically what has that done to our booze? Has it made it that intensely boozier? Because it didn't have any moisture content.
I mean, I don't think it will have done because we won't have extracted all of the sugar out of those raisins. because they weren't in there long enough. Like, if I did this recipe again, and I probably will, I would give it so much more time. These Trappist beers, they take... they'll be in tank for months, and then they will be in bottle for months. So it's almost like a year process for these, whereas we've done it in 5 weeks. It's
like slow gin or something, isn't it? You want it to be sat in there to kind of really be taking on the essence of it, and that process of osmosis and kind of stuff going in and out of cells to have happened over a really long period of time. But I mean, it's gonna be pretty raisiny and rummy anyway. But yeah,
it is. Yeah, just not as much as I'd want, but also it might mean that it's not incredibly strong.
Yeah. I'm really excited to try it, man. We're going to be filming that next week, so I'm pumped. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And I think, if it is a success or close to a success, then maybe next year we take it the next level and we get a barrel for it.
That's it. We build on it.
And that'll be next year's Christmas video. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on. So we've got a question this week, and it's a good question. It's a question you're going to love, Brad.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited.
And this comes from Joshua Reed, who is one of he calls himself a proud Patreon. Is there any other kind? Probably. There's probably a lot of begrudging Patreons out there. He's got a question based off of the cider content that we were producing. So take it away, Josh.
Hi, guys. Really big fan of the show in general and of the podcast to boot. Your recent video about the cider harvesting from Hereford and the coming video about the tasting of it got me thinking, is there going to be another revolution in the craft beer and craft cider world with a combination of the two to make craft snake bites? If so, do you think you could think of a pair of a lager and a cider, or a pale ale and a cider, that could make something that's not going to be a dark reminder of cheap student nights out? Thank you very much, and continue on with all the great work, guys.
Thank you, Josh. Before you dive in, Brad, because I'm sure you're chomping at the bit, we did actually cover snakebite last week, and we talked about the deep, dark stories. So, Bradley, how would you artisan up a snakebite?
Yeah, I mean, last week certainly I was talking about the effects of snakebite on me, and the fact that I threw a sort of flaming spear of a lawn candle.
Yeah, I was trying to gloss over the attempted murder thing, but you're going back there. You're like a serial killer that just keeps going back to the scene of the crime.
I'm like a moth to the lawn candle flame, mate. Snakebite. I mean, I used to love a snakebite before I had any sense. And there was that sort of myth that it would get you extra drunk in your stomach because it was like they were interacting and fermenting and doing weird stuff with each other.
Yeah, it's pure nonsense.
Yeah, but that's. I think when you're a young man, anything you can do to like get as drunk as you can, on the for the least amount of money, it sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? You're sort of in an experimental stage and money's tight or whatever. But anyway, how would I make it? How would I want to get off the bus? How would I make it amazing? Probably, I'd probably go for a Pilsner Urquell, or maybe like a Don Zoco, one of his amazing Pilsner style beers that have got like a bit of funk going on to them, and I'd put it with maybe an Oliver's cider. I don't know, mate. I mean, I'm not really that well versed in craft cider yet. You're the guy to.
What about just flavour wise? What would go well with like a natural cider?
Yeah.
So I guess a Pilsner. I mean, Don Zoco make Hellers, technically, not Pilsners, but I could see that working. But I don't know. I'd go for something hoppy. I'd want to add something to the cider rather than take away.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that hoppy because I quite like. I mean, could you put funk with funk? Could you have a funky cider and a funky sour beer, or is that cheating?
No, I think. I mean, because you would just be adding sort of more Brett, more apple and stuff if you went with a Gers or something. But if you added a Gers to a Perry, where because perries generally have a little bit more sweetness because there's a bit of unfermentable sugar in those pears. You could end up with something really nice, I reckon. Like a pear Gers blend could be delicious.
Or like maybe if you wanted to go the lowbrow kind of approach, you could put a fruity, a strawberry fruity with something, and then it's almost like a snakebite and black because you have to have the blackcurrant in there. So that the strawberry is maybe bring or something with even blackcurrants, like a beer that's got blackcurrant.
Well, I think Lindeman's in their absurd range of fruit lambics probably have one in there. I don't really like those drinks, but
no, they're insanely sweet. But that could really work, couldn't it?
Potentially. Maybe there's a video in this, but probably not. The thing I wanted to bring up in response to that question was a thing called Graf. So Graf is a blend of beer and cider, but it's blended before fermentation. So it's a blend of apple juice and wort, so sugary water that turns into beer, and then you ferment it. And I had always assumed, until I did some research a couple of years ago, that Graf was some old historical thing where, perhaps after harvest, if you didn't have enough beer, they'd have added some of the apple juice from the apple harvest to it or something to keep the stocks of alcohol high for for summer, when they weren't able to brew. Turns out that's nonsense. Graf, as a style, was invented by Stephen King in a series of books called The Dark Tower, like a couple of decades ago.
What? I just Googled it and it said it dates back to around 7000 BC.
Graf?
Yeah, Graf beer, defined as a fruit beer or apple-based beer, which dates back to around 7000 BC.
Where are you finding this information?
Cider. I don't know. I've just Googled it. Hang on. I think it's in ciderculture.com.
Says that Graf is millennia old.
Apparently. But hang on. This is talking about the Dark Tower also. I have no idea. We haven't got time to read this on a podcast, but I like the idea of Graf. So hang on, if you're mixing them before it ferments, are there hops involved?
Yeah,
in the water. So there are.
So you'd brew a beer as normal, but before fermenting, you'd blend it with apple juice.
I mean, that sounds pretty cool.
There's a cider maker now owned by Brewdog called Hawks that made it for a little bit, and it was very good. I thought it was better than the ciders they make. I thought it was nice and residually juicy with a little hop hint and high effervescence. So it was kind of almost champagne-esque levels of carbonation. It was quite an exciting drink.
So what you're saying, Johnny, is the future of snakebite is the history of Graf.
Yeah, exactly that. There you go. There's an article title. The future of snakebite is the history of Graf. Even if we don't know what the history of Graf is, it depends where you look. I'm going to have to do some more research into Graf because I hadn't found, like websites could say it, but I haven't found any actual historical reference to a blended apple and malt fermented beverage. But we'll see. It could well exist, so I'll look up that. Look up that in a bit. So we're coming to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, Josh, for your question. All that's really left is to say a huge thank you to Siren Craft Brew, who hosted our live show with us last month and who very shortly after joined our Patreon. So thank you so much, Siren. And indeed a huge thank you to Vessel as well, who have also just joined. And Sam's making a name for himself. The owner of Vessel is making a name for himself in our Discord forum already, making Tonka Imperial Stouts. So, yeah, you can still join our Patreon, join that Discord forum and support what we do. We've just sent out our Christmas gifts for the year, which was a Brad-designed fridge magnet.
Yeah, man, it's more than a fridge magnet, Johnny.
Sorry,
it's an industrial engraved sign, which gives you an incredibly important message. Should you be in dire need, which is in case of emergency, drink beer. And I've modelled it. I've already put it on my bike. You've got it on our fridge that we ferment stuff in. It's a big small item that's awesome. Talking of stuff that's Brad designed, I've also just put another T-shirt on the merch store. So yeah, we've got a real full range shaping up now of some quite highbrow concepts of kind of like my takes on consumerism and beer and branding and how those things kind of interject each other. They're basically just cool ass logos of kind of either corporations that I admire or artists that I like and things that I've kind of subverted into a craft beer spin, shall we say?
Yeah, and then there's the Pizza Hut one.
And then there's the Pizza Hut one, yeah. which is awesome, and I've had that idea for ages, and we kind of spitball a lot of stuff, and I tried to make it fly a couple of weeks ago with a slightly more lewd version, which we won't go into, that we both decided was a little bit too extreme. And I just sort of reassessed it, and I thought, why do I love Pilsner so much? And what is it about that experience of drinking a Pilsner that's so special? And it's because we all started with lager. Like, pretty much everyone's first beer was going to be a lager. So for me, it's got all of that nostalgia around it. And I just wanted to celebrate a beer style that isn't really given enough credit. Like, we're always championing it on the channel, but a lot of people are not. They're chasing flavors and stuff and chasing the new hype, and it's good to remember a Stone Cold classic.
Absolutely, and the Pizza Hut buffet bar is also a 90s Stone Cold classic.
Ice Cream Machine, whatever it was called, Ice Cream Factory.
Ice Cream Machine as well, yeah.
What
a time to be alive that was. It's all gone to pot since.
Yes.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. Do head to the merch store. There'll be a link in the show notes for that as well. Otherwise, we'll see you on Wednesday for the finale of our ultimate Christmas brew / mince pie inspired Belgian double nonsense. And please do pick up a box for the live show next Saturday 12th. There'll be a link below to that, so you can buy that and you can join us and all our special guests. Till then, enjoy the first 12 days of Christmas, and we will see you on Wednesday. Goodbye now. The Bubble Podcast is brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's Craft Beer channel. Head to youtube.com/the Craft Beer channel to watch this week's video and over 400 more exciting episodes. If you love what we do, please do subscribe and even join our Patreon at patreon.com/craftbeer channel. Love and beer.